On the morning of December 29, 2017, 20-year-old Fernando Pastor Rizo was discovered shot on a road in Argentina. Paramedics responded quickly, but tragically, Fernando succumbed to his injuries before reaching the hospital. Initially, police suspected a robbery, but when they found that nothing had been stolen from him, the investigation shifted focus. This new lead pointed the police towards someone close to Fernando and initially above suspicion. Ultimately, this individual became one of the youngest people to receive a life sentence in Argentina, with the case going on to become one of the most infamous and emblematic in the country's history. Fernando Gabriel Pastor Rizo was born on January 3, 1997 in Entre Rios, a province in Argentina. He was the son of Gustavo Pastor Rizo and Silvia Montes, who separated when he was young. Despite the split, the former couple maintained a cordial relationship, ensuring that Fernando and his sister Carla enjoyed a stable and happy childhood. Fernando was often described as an outgoing and curious boy with a passion for a wide range of interests. Fernando was deeply connected to both his family and his friends. He had a natural ability to make friends and was known for his sense of humor. In 2012, something significant and joyous happened in his life. He started dating one of the most popular girls at his school. She was 14 years old at the time, a year younger than him. The girl in question was Mariana Galarza, born on September 11, 1998. She was the daughter of Marcelo Galarza and Yamina Crow, who also had a son named Aaron. Mariana gained popularity at school, largely due to her striking physical appearance, which drew the attention of many. Her mother was a former police officer, and her father held a senior position in the police force in their hometown. The family lived in Gualeguaychú, a city located 15 miles from the Uruguayan border, with a population of around 100,000 people. According to sources, due to their status and influence in the community, Mariana's parents often intervened to help her avoid any trouble she got into. She even boasted to her classmates that her father could get her out of any situation. Mariana was often described as a spoiled and vain girl who usually got whatever she wanted. According to people close to the family, her mother acted more like a peer than a responsible parent. She tended to overlook her daughter's misbehavior and at times even encouraged actions that most would consider unacceptable. In the family, the only figure of authority was her father. According to psychologist Gabriel Tanya, who later analyzed the case, both Mariana and her mother viewed him more as an idol, almost like a god rather than a traditional father figure. As a result, Mariana did not respect any other authority. Despite this flawed upbringing, however, she was a hard-working student. Mariana was on the school hockey team, was crowned queen of a carnival float, and performed well academically. As a result, many who didn't have close contact with her family believed she was a well-rounded and good person. As I mentioned earlier, she was also highly admired by her classmates for her beauty. The boys did everything they could to gain her attention, and Mariana took full advantage of it. However, she also had a tendency to bully other students. She often humiliated and mocked classmates whom she considered unattractive or inferior to her. On one occasion, when another girl rented a dress similar to the one Mariana wore to her 15th birthday party, she became furious and claimed they'd done it deliberately to spite her. Mariana then began mocking the girl on Facebook, sending her insulting private messages. She even went so far as to threaten the girl, demanding that she stop wearing the dress. According to other students at the school, this kind of behavior was typical whenever Mariana felt uncomfortable around others. She would use threats to intimidate those around her. Initially, when Fernando and Mariana started their relationship, they kept it private and did not publicly acknowledge it. When asked, despite it being obvious to everyone that their bond went beyond friendship, it was Mariana's decision not to publicly acknowledge the relationship. She didn't want others to know because she still wanted the freedom to see other boys while keeping a stable relationship with Fernando. Mariana was the one who controlled who she went out with. When Mariana found a handsome boy she deemed worthy of her time, she would invite him over to her house to watch a movie. Her parents were fully aware of this, yet they never reprimanded her for it. It's unclear exactly how much time passed, but eventually Fernando discovered that he was being betrayed. He was devastated, as it was his first relationship, and he was deeply in love with Mariana. In his teenage mind, Fernando decided it would be better not to end the relationship. Instead, he began seeing other girls. When Mariana found out, she was furious and started obsessively monitoring him. She would constantly check his phone to see if he was talking to other girls, and even tried to stop him from hanging out with his friends. Eventually, the young couple decided to make their relationship official, which relieved Fernando's parents, as they knew Mariana would no longer bring other boys home. Her parents also supported the relationship, believing that Fernando was responsible and that being with him might make Mariana less rebellious. In 2016, Fernando's parents decided to take a trip to Brazil. a neighboring country to Argentina. They planned to take Mariana with them and took the opportunity to invite Fernando to spend the holidays as well. By then, the young couple's relationship had been going on for some time and had become more stable. Frequent social media posts and photos of the two together painted a picture of a happy, harmonious relationship. However, this harmony didn't last and soon problems began to resurface. It is said that the betrayals between them continued and they argued constantly. They would break up and then get back together, making their relationship increasingly unstable. In 2017, after graduating from high school, Mariana began studying law at the University of Concepción del Uruguay. There, she started an affair with the professor Joaquin, as well as another colleague named Rafael. She even told her friends that she was dating Rafael, all while still maintaining her relationship with Fernando. By then, Fernando's friends, who were well aware of the troubled history between the couple, encouraged him to end the relationship. However, Fernando refused to listen and chose to stay with her. By the end of 2017, specifically in December, Fernando finally realized that his relationship with Mariana was beyond repair. He began signaling to her that he no longer wanted to continue dating. Upon noticing Fernando's signals, Mariana told him that if he left her, he would regret it, attempting to intimidate him. She even took advantage of the bruises she had gotten from playing hockey to spread rumors that Fernando had attacked her. Additionally, she would insult and threaten him whenever she suspected he had seen another girl, despite the fact that she was consistently cheating on him herself. On December 25, 2017, something happened that finally pushed Fernando to make a decision about their relationship. On Christmas night, when he arrived at a nightclub, he found Mariana kissing her other boyfriend, Rafael. Fernando confronted them, and as Rafael walked away, he and Mariana began to argue. In his anger, Fernando grabbed Mariana by the shoulders, which led bystanders to believe he was attacking her. Here, in the midst of the confusion, a friend of hers named Sol Martinez, who was accompanying her to the nightclub, joined the argument and punched Fernando in the face, demanding that he move away from her friend. After that, Fernando was expelled from the nightclub, and according to reports, he was devastated, crying and unhappy with the whole situation. That same day, a few hours later, now here and her friend Sol went to Fernando's house, where they began attacking him in various ways with blows and punches while attacking him. Mariana told Fernando not to dare react, warning him that her father was a police officer. Once the attacks stopped, the girls realized he had been recording with his phone, and they forced him to delete the video. Later, Fernando confided in a friend that he had nearly lost consciousness from the beating. What hurt him the most, however, were the cruel things they had said about his family. A few days later, Fernando confided in his aunt about what had happened. He believed she would support him, knowing the kind of person Mariana was. At first, the aunt sided with Fernando, but after speaking with Mariana, she changed her stance and claimed that everything Fernando had told her was just a fabrication. In the days that followed, Fernando's situation worsened. He became increasingly distraught and devastated by everything that had transpired. His friends suggested that he move to another city and start college there, urging him to leave behind Mariana and all the painful memories. Fernando liked the idea, and by December he enrolled in a college in a different city where classes would begin in March of the following year. However, something tragic happened that prevented Fernando from starting college. On December 28, 2017, he had his final conversation with Mariana. It is believed that during this conversation, Fernando decided to end their relationship once and for all. He allegedly told her that he wanted nothing more to do with her and that he was planning to start a new life. In the early hours of the next day, around 2 a.m., Mariana went to Fernando's house, telling him she didn't want to lose him and asking if she could spend the night with him, even if it was for the last time. Fernando agreed, and the two spent the night together at his house. According to sources, Fernando stayed at Mariana's house about 3 hours, and they had an intimate encounter during that time. Afterward, Fernando said goodbye and left her house, heading towards his motorcycle. Mariana accompanied him and asked if he could do one last favor, give her a ride to her grandmother's house. Fernando agreed and waited for her to go inside and return. Once inside, Mariana took a 9mm pistol that belonged to her father, concealed it in her pocket, and then met Fernando again, leading him to a dark and secluded spot. Mariana then asked Fernando to stop, and in his naivety, he complied. As he got off the motorcycle, she suddenly shot him in the back. The shot caused him to fall to the ground beside his motorcycle. To ensure he wouldn't survive, she approached him and fired again at point-blank range. Afterward, Mariana searched the crime scene for the bullet casings to avoid leaving evidence, but she was unable to find them all. Later, the police found one of the bullet casings near the crime scene. A taxi driver had passed by at the exact moment of the shooting and saw Mariana collecting the casings. However, he only noticed a man lying on the ground with a girl crouching beside him. and he assumed it was nothing serious. After the crime, Mariana walked back to her house on foot. She was captured on a security camera at 5:22 a.m., walking calmly. When Mariana got home, she returned her father's gun to its place, took a shower, and went to sleep. A few minutes after she left the crime scene, the same taxi driver who had passed by earlier returned to the area. He saw Fernando lying alone in the street. The driver then stopped his vehicle, got out, and approached to see what had happened. As the taxi driver approached Fernando, he realized the young man was gravely injured and immediately called emergency services. Despite the quick response from help, Fernando did not survive and passed away before he could be taken to the hospital. The crime took place on a road just a few miles from Fernando's home. Initially, when the police received the first reports about the incident, they believed Fernando had fallen victim to a robbery. However, when the police arrived at the crime scene to begin their investigation, they quickly realized that none of Fernando's belongings had been taken. He still had his cell phone, wallet, and money, and his vehicle was untouched at the scene. As a result, the police shifted their focus and decided to pursue a new line of investigation, suspecting that the motive was not robbery, but rather a deliberate attempt to take Fernando's life. A few hours after the police began their investigation, news of the crime quickly spread throughout the city of Gualeguaychú. Soon, nearly all the residents were aware of what had happened to 20-year-old Fernando Pastor. Upon hearing the news, Sylvia, Fernando's mother, called Mariana to ask if she knew where Fernando was, as he had not returned home. Mariana, of course, lied, claiming that the last time she had seen Fernando was around 11 p.m. A few hours later, Sylvia received a call from the police informing her of what had happened to her son. She and Fernando's father were completely devastated. As soon as news of Fernando's death began to spread, Mariana took to her social media to post a message expressing her regret about the tragedy. Mariana wrote that despite the ups and downs in her relationship with Fernando, he had always been the love of her life and that she would love him forever. During the investigation, the police discovered that the route Fernando was taking on his motorcycle that day was not his usual one. He didn't typically drive on that road, which led the authorities to believe that he had been lured to that location. During the investigation, Mariana was called in to give a statement, as she was one of Fernando's closest people. In her conversation with the police, she suggested that the person responsible for the crime might be a relative of Fernando or one of his best friends who worked as a police officer. Throughout her testimony, the police noticed that she spoke very coldly and seemed completely unfazed by what had happened to Fernando. From that moment on, the police began to suspect Mariana, theorizing that she may have hired someone to kill Fernando. They believed she lacked the courage to commit the crime herself but had orchestrated it by hiring someone else. A few days later, an arrest warrant was issued for Mariana, as she became the primary suspect in the case. Mariana appeared at the police station with a lawyer, and in her new statement, she claimed that she had no idea who could have committed the crime. However, just days earlier, she had confessed to her parents that she was the one who had taken Fernando's life. Afterward, her parents began to consider ways to help their daughter avoid the consequences of her actions. It wasn't her father who hired the lawyer who accompanied Mariana to the police station after the authorities issued a warrant for her arrest. According to sources, the lawyer was one of the best in his field. In Argentina, the penalty is more severe when the criminal has a close relationship with the victim, so the defense strategy was to try to convince the authorities that Mariana had no real connection to Fernando. In one of her new statements, Mariana claimed that she had only dated Fernando casually and that they never had anything more than that. Her father even tried to support this story, stating in a press interview that his daughter and Fernando were never romantically involved. According to him, the two had known each other for 5 years but had never been in a relationship. As mentioned earlier, this statement was part of Mariana's strategy to avoid facing charges of aggravated homicide, which could lead to a life sentence, and instead be charged with simple homicide, which carries a sentence of 8 to 25 years in prison. Mariana's father also told the Argentine press that Fernando had frequently mistreated his daughter. He claimed that on several occasions he and his wife had found Mariana badly injured. However, Mariana always made excuses, claiming that her injuries had happened in other ways. Her father later discovered that it was actually Fernando who had been hurting his daughter. The entire story that Mariana and Fernando had no relationship was disproven when the police found photos from the trip the family had taken to Brazil, which included Fernando. In addition to the photos, there were several videos showing Fernando and Mariana declaring their love for each other. When this evidence contradicted her previous statements, Mariana changed her story once again. She now admitted that she had been in a relationship with Fernando, but claimed that he had constantly abused her. According to her new version, on the day of the crime, Fernando took her father's gun and forced her to go with him on the motorcycle. According to Mariana, while they were on the road, Fernando lost control of the motorcycle and they both fell. In the chaos, she claimed she managed to take the gun from him, but during the struggle, it accidentally discharged, hitting Fernando in the back. She said she was frightened and didn't know what to do, which led her to accidentally shoot him again. Although Mariana's version of events was highly questionable and full of inconsistencies, several people supported her. Campaigns led by her friends spread across the internet, calling for her release. Soon after, various feminist groups organized protests demanding her freedom. Meanwhile, Mariana asked her friend Sol Martinez to testify on her behalf, insisting that Fernando had frequently attacked her. However, this strategy backfired when the police used Sol Martinez's testimony to ask additional questions, causing her to contradict herself. Fernando's close friends were also called to testify, and most of them stated that Fernando had suffered greatly at Mariana's hands. They also spoke about an incident when Mariana and Sol Martinez had physically attacked Fernando during a previous confrontation. Mariana was treated like a celebrity by the Argentine media. Her name was trending across every social network in the country, and it seemed she reveled in the attention. The case gained massive attention not only in Argentina but also across South America. Fernando Pastor Rizo was buried at the Gallego Cemetery in a ceremony attended by hundreds of people. In June 2018, the trial of Mariana Galarza began, and her defense continued to construct new narratives in an attempt to portray Fernando as violent. However, the defense was caught off guard by a surprising turn of events that shocked both them and the prosecution. Gabriel Cartagena, the psychologist hired by Mariana's defense to conduct a clinical analysis, unexpectedly turned against her. He determined that Mariana had in fact been in a relationship with Fernando and that she had not suffered abuse at his hands. Gabriel testified in court that Mariana was an extremely spoiled and manipulative person, and that she had indeed been in a relationship with Fernando, contradicting her claims of abuse. Following his statement, Gabriel was dismissed by the defense and was instructed not to disclose his clinical reports about Mariana. Despite their efforts to reverse the situation, the defense was unsuccessful. Everything pointed to Mariana being found guilty and convicted of the crime. On July 3, 2018, Mariana Galarza was indeed found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Fernando Pastor Rizo. She will be required to serve at least 35 years before becoming eligible for parole. A few days after her conviction, several feminist groups organized protests in multiple cities across Argentina, demanding that her sentence be reconsidered. However, these protests had no impact, and the sentence was upheld. In her first interviews after being arrested, Mariana spoke about the crime as if Fernando's death was an inexplicable event with no one truly responsible. She expressed feeling deeply sad in prison, particularly on weekends, as she could no longer go out dancing or drinking. She cited her youth, her parents' influence, and the high media profile of her case as factors that contributed to her sense of loss. Mariana was eventually transferred to a different prison known as La Granja, the Farm, which is not like a traditional prison with bars and cells. Instead, it features rooms where various recreational activities take place. In this facility, inmates can study and spend time with friends. Additionally, she allegedly has access to her social media accounts, and some sources claim that a photo of her, taken inside the prison, was posted on social media. In the caption of the photo, Mariana wrote that she was serving this damn sentence as far as we know. She also started a new relationship with a man named Matthias, whom she met when he visited his grandmother, who is also an inmate in the same prison. In August 2019, the Criminal Cassation Chamber of Concordia rejected the appeal filed by Mariana's defense. In 2020, it was reported that Mariana was participating in various prison activities, including studying psychology. In March of that year, the Supreme Court of Justice of Entre Rios rejected another appeal from her defense. Then, in January 2022, something unexpected occurred. Mariana changed her lawyers and, with the support of her mother, accused her own father of being the true mastermind for Fernando's murder. Mariana claimed that it was her father who was responsible for Fernando's murder. She alleged that he pressured her to take the fall, promising that his influence would eventually get her out of prison. From inside the prison, Mariana even posted on her social media, sharing photos and a message recalling her 15th birthday party. In the photos, Mariana covered her father's face and wrote that her 15th birthday party was an unforgettable day. However, she mentioned that something dark marred the celebration, marking the beginning of a nightmare. Mariana was referring to her father in this post. After the accusation from his own daughter, and with the support of his wife, Marcelo decided to divorce and retreat from public life, choosing to isolate himself. Marcelo withdrew from public life, losing over 33 pounds and moving to a small farm in Garlic White. In a statement, he expressed that he was devastated, feeling as though his family had been torn apart and that everything had become extremely difficult. Currently, Marcelo focuses on raising chickens and maintains contact only with his son, Aaron, who, according to him, has been a great source of support during this challenging time. According to authorities, there is no evidence linking Marcelo Galarza to the crime that resulted in Fernando Pastor's death. The allegations made by Mariana, claiming her father was the true perpetrator, are widely seen as a desperate attempt to absolve herself and escape prison. Additionally, some media outlets reported that Mariana had claimed to be pregnant, but the pregnancy did not continue. In May 2020, a film titled The Hair was released on Amazon Prime Video. According to some critics, the film is heavily distorted and attempts to portray Mariana Galarza as a victim, deviating from the actual events. Despite being inspired by real events, the story was so heavily altered that it became little more than fiction. Currently, Mariana Galarza is serving her sentence in a women's prison in Argentina and holds the distinction of being the youngest woman in the country's history to be sentenced to life in prison.